So with the free 4-star Liyue character event coming up, I thought this would be a great time to do an overview for all the 4-star characters in Genshin Impact. If you're new to the game or you just haven't looked into all the 4-stars yet, then this video is a good starting point to see which ones might interest you. Amber is a pyro bow user who can drop a Baron Bunny to taunt enemies, allowing her to freely use charge attacks. Her burst is a small AOE which deals multiple instances of pyro damage, making quick work of cryo shields. Her pros are she is a fast cryo shield breaker and she has the utility of a taunt skill. But she does have low damage output and unreliable pyro application. Her recommended role is either a main DPS or a sub DPS. Barbara is a Hydro Catalyst user who is the quintessential healer in the game. She can heal the active member passively with her skill, heal the whole party actively, or use her burst to do a massive heal for the whole party. She has very flexible healing whether you need sustained or burst. She also has off-field hydro application with her elemental skill, and she can reduce the stamina consumption of the on-field character. But her off-field hydro application does need melee range to be effective. Her recommended role is a healer. Beidou is an electro claymore user who relies on well-timed counterattacks with her skill, dealing massive electro damage in a large AOE. Upon using burst, attacks will deal additional electro damage which chain to multiple enemies. This burst status is transferred to the active character when she is switched out. Her elemental skill does high damage in a large AOE, and she can apply electro off-field using her burst. But her high damage from her elemental skill or her counterattack is conditional with enemy attacks, so you might not always be able to maximize her damage potential. Her recommended role is either a main DPS or a sub DPS. Bennett is a pyro sword user who has an iconic burst which deals damage upon activation, heal periodically, and buff the attack of the characters on the field. His skill is a basic pyro slash, but when held down will deal more damage. Regarded as one of the best supports in the game, every player should have a Bennett. He has strong AOE healing, he can buff the attack of your party members, and he has a low cooldown skill for pyro application. While he does all of these, he does not heal to full in most cases, and he does require C1 to maximize burst utility, which is when he is able to heal and provide an attack buff at the same time. His recommended role is either a main DPS, a sub DPS, or a healer. CHONGYUN is a cryo claymore user who can deal consistent AOE cryo damage with his spammable burst, and his skill turns all melee attacks within the AOE into cryo damage. He's a good choice for teams that are not relying on physical damage but looking for cryo applications, such as freeze or melt comps. His pros are that he enables the shatter team composition because he is a claymore user who does cryo damage. He also has a spammable AOE cryo burst and has reliable cryo application when using melee characters. The only problem with him is that he changes melee characters' normal attacks to cryo damage, which is bad for physical damage dealers. As an example, you don't want CHONGYUN as a support for a Razor main DPS. His recommended role is either a main DPS or a sub DPS. DIONA is a cryo bow user who excels in a support playstyle due to her low cooldown but powerful shields, greatly helping with survivability. And if that's not enough, her burst is an AOE periodical heal. If you die with a DIONA supporting your team, you're doing something wrong. Her pros are her strong, spammable shield and off-field cryo application with her burst. Her elemental skill cryo application is sometimes unreliable because it may not hit the enemy that you're trying to hit. Her recommended role is a shielder or a healer. FISCHL is an electro bow user who has high DPS and is one of the most flexible sub DPS characters. Her companion Oz can stay on the field for a long time and deal electro damage to enemies even when FISCHL is switched out. She is an easy choice if you're looking for electro application. Her pros are her high damage and consistent off-field electro application, but most of her damage is single target. Her recommended role is either main DPS or sub DPS. Aya is a cryo sword user who can consistently apply cryo to enemies with his high energy recharge and low cooldown skill. His burst deals continuous cryo damage around him, which transfers to other characters when switching. He also has the highest normal attack scaling out of all the sword users, including 5 stars. He has very consistent cryo application and high physical damage, but his burst cryo application requires melee range to be effective. His recommended role is either main DPS or sub DPS.
何になさいますか?
これはお仕置き。
Lisa is an electro catalyst user who has a high damaging large AOE skill, but does require stacking debuffs on enemies and a short charge animation to maximize its damage. Her burst is a long duration electro applying AOE which stays on the field even if she is switched out. Her elemental skill has very high damage and a large AOE, but it does require some setup or crowd control for it to be effective. Her recommended role is either a main DPS or a sub DPS. NINGGUANG is a Geo Catalyst user who has the highest DPS among the 4 stars. She specializes in spamming charge attacks and her elemental burst, which is on a low cooldown. This character is a 5-star in disguise. She has very high damage and her elemental skill can block projectiles. Being that she is a Geo character, she cannot trigger damaging elemental reactions. Her recommended role is a main DPS. NOELLE is a Geo Claymore user who can do everything: deal damage, tank, and heal. Although she cannot deal as much damage as other DPS characters or heal as much as other healers, a character that can do everything at the same time might just be what you need. She does rely heavily on having elemental burst uptime. Her pros are she does everything, but her whole kit requires energy management or energy recharge stats to perform well. And compared with other healers, her healing is below average. Her recommended role is either a main DPS, a shielder, or a healer. Razor is an Electro Claymore user who deals massive physical damage. When he activates his elemental burst, his attack speed is increased and he gains additional electro damage on top of his physical damage. He has high damage and large AOE attacks, but he is considered a selfish DPS. He has to be on the field to do any sort of damage. His recommended role is a main DPS. SUCROSE is an Animo Catalyst user who specializes in creating swirls while providing crowd control. If there are other sources of elements, she will wreak havoc on the battlefield in a fantastic display of damage numbers. She buffs the elemental mastery of the party. She has strong crowd control and she is a good source of DPS increase for the party. She does require other elements to maximize her damage. Her recommended role is either a main DPS or a sub DPS. XIANGLING is a pyro polearm user who, with the help of Goba, laces the battlefield with pyro. Her burst covers a wide AOE and hits for multiple times while causing a bit of crowd control. This continues even if she is switched out. She has very consistent pyro application with Goba and her elemental burst has a very large AOE. It can sometimes be hard to aim Goba where you want him to breathe fire to. Her recommended role is either a main DPS or a sub DPS. Xingqiu is a Hydro Sword user who shines when supporting teams with his damage mitigation, healing, and high damage skill and burst. His burst deals additional Hydro damage per attack and transfers to the active character when he is switched out. A great addition to freeze or vaporize teams. His damage mitigation is percentage based, so this scales better with higher level content than shields of other characters, which just takes a flat amount of damage before breaking. He also has high damage over time and off-field hydro application with his elemental burst. His only issue is his long cooldowns and it forces him to use Sacrificial Sword. His recommended role is either a sub DPS or a shielder. XINYAN is a pyro claymore user who deals high physical damage both with her normal attacks and her explosive elemental burst. She also provides a shield which deals periodic pyro damage to surrounding enemies. She has massive physical damage potential, but her shield is the weakest shield in the game. And being a physical damage dealer, you need to apply Superconduct. Other physical damage dealers are either cryo or electro. But since XINYAN is a pyro character, it does take 2 more character slots to apply Superconduct. Her recommended role is a main DPS. Hey, I hope this video helped you out for your 4-star character pick. Check out my YouTube channel for more guides, builds, and funny Genshin content. I also stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on fb.gg/LanceTV, so you can ask me about these characters live. And finally, we have an active Discord community where you can party up, discuss builds, or just make friends. Hey, I'll see you around.